How are we, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're here for another Football Manager experiment, and today is one that I've not done before on the channel. It's the Old Firm in the English Premier League. Now, I follow a lot of football fans, or see a lot of tweets from Scottish football fans in particular, saying that they believe Celtic or Rangers, especially Celtic, I suppose, at the current state, would unsettle the top six really in the Premier League. And I think with the reputation, if they were getting in the money in the Premier League, it may be open for a discussion. But today I'm going to be testing them out. We put Rangers and Celtic in the Premier League. I'll quickly show you the Premier League, what it looks like at the moment. So the two teams I believe that have been taken out are Fulham and Cardiff. So you can see here, sitting in 5th is Celtic and sitting in 15th is Rangers. I've downloaded this database off FM Scout as well, so if you did want to give this a go yourself or check all the ins and outs of it, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. Season preview, it's got Rangers to finish bottom and Celtic to finish 16th. That's fully based on the squads at the start of this season. Nothing else really in that. Celtic have, of course, got, I believe it's Neil Lennon in charge for the first season. Key player is Scott Brown. They've got like the likes of Mikey Johnston. They should have, they've still got Edouard, Kieran Turnier, and so on. So they've got that team. They've got some really good players, Celtic. Some good players that go on to good things in Football Manager as well. And if you go over to Rangers, of course, they've got Steven Gerrard in charge. Still got the likes of Alfredo Morelos. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the Premier League as well. Obviously, Jermaine Defoe. There's some good players in there. So it'll be interesting to see how Rangers get on. But we're going to be skipping forward 5 years in total. Checking back a season at a time to see how all of these teams get on. See all the player movements, if there's any manager movements as well. So we may as well jump into the first season. If they've got any other experiment ideas that you want to see on the channel, let me know in the comment section down below. But before we kick off with season 1, make sure you go and check out the sponsors of today's video over at OneFootball, the #1 football app out there at the moment. You can check all the updates from the SPL if you prefer, Celtic and Rangers, or all your favourite clubs, all the transfer news, all the gossip, catered to your needs with live football scores as well. Free to download on iOS and Android, and a link to that in the top of the description. So here we are then, the end of season 1, and you can see straight away, Man City job available. Let's see how our Old Firm teams have done now then. Oh, both towards the bottom, to be honest. If you have a quick look there, Rangers finishing bottom, missing out on staying up by 6 points, and Celtic in the end finishing 17th with 35 points, only staying up by a point. So Brighton, Huddersfield and Rangers are the teams to go down. Liverpool winning the Premier League. So Rangers, let's start off with them. Bottom of the Premier League, Sam Allardyce now in charge, so Steven Gerrard no longer there. Let's start off with the managers. So Gerrard was sacked. When was it? January, February, March, April, May. So right at the end of the season by the looks of it. He was relegated with the club, had only won 17% of his games. So they gave him the full season, to be fair to them. And Big Sam has just come in after 5 days in charge. The players Rangers brought in. Of course, we have to go in from sort of where... I think they've brought all of these in. So they only brought 2 players in on free. So Jay Quitongo, who is a Scot anyway, they may have brought him in real life, and Efrain Juarez, who's a Mexican right back who didn't really play much for them, and no real outs either. So they didn't strengthen their team much on paper. They didn't weaken it as such. And in the end, that's probably why. Knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup by Hull. Knocked out in the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup by Ipswich. Alfredo Morelos was top goal scorer in the league with 10 goals, and rightly so. His value up to 19.5 million. Good player. 10 goals in 30 games is not a bad return for a team that have gone down. So be interested to see if he is picked up. Let's go over to Celtic now. Quick overview of them. Neil Lennon is still in charge, so no management changes there at all. Just a 24% win ratio for him. Transfer-wise, after season 1 as well, only... I don't know if they had Volchite in real life, but Tim Ream came in from Fulham, and Francois Mubanji is out from Toulouse. They spent a little bit of money on a Swiss left-back who didn't really play much for them either, second half of the season. Players out wide, they sold out Derek Boyata. He went to Espanyol. Doris de Vries went back to Holland. But interesting. Again, no real big players strengthening the sides there. But I suppose this maybe is to be expected, especially as, you know, they haven't had that big TV money coming in yet. Maybe we do have to wait a season or two before we see Celtic and Rangers go up the leagues a little bit. Lee Griffiths finishing top goal scorer with just 9 goals. FA Cup, they were knocked out by Man City in the 4th round, won by Newcastle, by the way, in the end. And 2nd round of the Carabao Cup, they were always sort of 17th and below, to be honest. And if you have a look, they were actually bottom of the league for a little bit. And it was... they were always milling in and around the relegation zone. So that's season 1 done. Very, very interesting. It's going to be interesting now, I think, to see season 2. When these clubs start to get a little bit of the prize money, seeing who they're bringing in. Obviously, Rangers now going to be in the Championship. Let's see if they can get immediate promotion back to the English top flight. So we're at the end of season 2 now. And we are going to go straight to the Premier League. See who's there. Liverpool have won the league again by the looks of it. Yeah, they have. Right, Celtic having a much better finish this season. Finishing in 11th place with 42 points. Still only 9 points away. That's quite tight, that bottom half of the table. But Sheffield United, who came up, Aston Villa, who came up, and Newcastle all go down. The other team to have come up was Leeds, who actually stayed up quite comfortably in the end there. So let's check out Celtic. 11th in the league. Obviously, it looks like they've got some new players in. Neil Lennon's still in charge. Right, transfer history, £70 million spent this year. This is what we were waiting for. Firstly, the players that left, James Forrest, Philip Volchai, they got a little bit of money back for. Francois Mubanji, they made a bit of a loss on, to be honest. Ryan Christie, Scott Sinclair, Johnny Hayes, they all left the club. But the players to come in, spending just under 20 million on Issa Diop. Great centre-half from West Ham. Really, really good player. Max Aarons from Norwich, who is a right-back. Jack Butland, Mo Diame, Raheem Harper, Jack O'Connell, Jordan Amavi. It looks like they've really strengthened their back line. They're bringing in some good players, some good defensive players. And I suppose that's, you know, that's where it starts, isn't it? If you have a good defence in the Premier League, you've got every chance of being quite successful. So fair play to them on that front. Competition-wise, in the Premier League, they finished 14th. I mean, obviously 11th, sorry. The media predicted was 14th. Tom Rogic, as the top goal scorer this season, knocked out in the FA Cup semi-final. So got to Wembley in the semis and lost to the eventual winners Liverpool. And knocked out in the 3rd round of the Carabao Cup by Man City. Quite unfortunate on that front. One thing that we didn't check, which we will check from last season, is how the Old Firm got on. So Celtic beat Rangers 1-0 in that game and lost 2-0 in the other game. So very interesting there on that front. So we go over to Rangers, 13th in the Championship with Thierry Henry now in charge. I'm going to be honest, I expected an immediate bounce back by Rangers, but just 61 points. Which is a shame, really. Let's check out their transfers first. £36 million spent, bringing in Jurgen Locadia from Brighton, Jake Bidwell for QPR, Nick Powell, some, dare say, solid championship quality players. Players that left the club, only £1.3 million. It looked like they kept Morelos, though. Let's have a look. Morelos, is he still there? Yeah, he is. I'd expected him to have fired in a fair few goals this season. Sam Allardyce was sacked just at the end of November. Thierry Henry has come in and he's had an okay start. But yeah, media predicted 9th. They finished down in 13th. FA Cup 5th round, knocked out by Liverpool, as was Celtic. And Carabao Cup 2nd round, Morelos, 16 goals. It'll be interesting to see if he is picked up eventually. Had an okay start, but never really, if you look here, they were down in 20th for some time. Never really broke through into... they finished the season quite strongly, but never really broke through into the playoffs. Hopefully that form can see them shoot into the playoffs or promotion next season. Let's skip forward to season 3 and see if we can get Rangers back in the Premier League and see if Celtic can start and settle in some of the top half teams. So we're now at the end of the 2020-2021 season. Let's start with the Premier League. Liverpool job now available. Finishing down in 3rd, Liverpool there. But Celtic, again, staying up by just the 1 point. Very, very close indeed for them there. Let's have a quick look at their team. Now got Carlos Queiroz in charge, the ex-Manchester United assistant, Portugal manager. Let's start with their transfers. Another £96 million spent. They brought £70 million in, which we'll have a look at, though. Dario Marasic came in from Arsenal. Cech Tosun from Villa. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Sturridge, both from Liverpool. Overall, Barini as well. David Silva in from Man City. Nemanja Matic in on loan. Some big signings there. It's a shame David Silva can't really run anymore, but that's an interesting signing. How much is he on a week? 80 grand a week as well. But they brought in £70 million worth into the club. Olivier Ntcham going to Celtic. He turns out to be a fantastic player on Football Manager. Jack Butland to Spurs. They made some good money on him. Mo Diarme leaving. A lot of players that they've brought in the last couple of years leaving the squad altogether, and a lot of players going out on loan to Scottish teams there. In terms of managers, though, Neil Lennon sacked in December, and Carlos Queiroz coming in and obviously steadying the ship slightly by the looks of things, and keeping them up. Yep, they were rock bottom down there for a long time, and this upturn in form must have just about... They stayed up on the final day. Wow. Very, very close indeed. Cardiff finishing bottom. Crystal Palace and Brighton both going down. Odsonne Edouard finishing top goal scorer this season. Still got Kieran Tierney, which is interesting. But look at that. Just picking up points in the last few games. Really, really did save them. Interesting indeed. Let's go down to the Championship now. Rangers. Let's see if they came up. They did. They finished second, 80 points. It's quite a low points tally for the guys at the top three there. But Rangers have come up. Who have they got in charge now? Martin Sevilla. Gosh, a lot of manager changes. Thierry Henry left his role. He's now manager of Fulham, but he left his role, and Sevilla came in April, and to be honest, he's only won one, which doesn't really bode well, but it's Henry must have had him in a good position. In terms of transfers, they spent another 26.5 million. No real huge transfers coming in. But Tanguy Koulibaly came in from PSG. Alex Pritchard from Huddersfield. Tyrone Mings from Bournemouth. Another couple of players in from PSG. But they sold Jake Bidwell. Sobiek left the club. Tavernier left as well. In competitions, finishing, media predicted 12th, but finished second. And as you can see, they were top for a long time. They should have probably won the league. Henry will be disappointed that they didn't hold on. I think the fans will as well. Morelos with 15 goals, though. 4th round by Manchester United, and 2nd round knocked out in the Carabao Cup 2nd round by Leeds United. I say Henry will be disappointed because all of his hard work there is undone. I suppose he wouldn't care if he's left the club anyway. But yeah, we'll move on to Season 4. Rangers will be back in the big time. Celtic just about staying up. Will we see Rangers finish above the Celtic team before the end of the episode? Let's find out. So then, here we are, the penultimate season of this experiment. Jump into the Premier League and look at that. 2 of the best finishes that we've seen so far for Celtic and Rangers. Celtic on 52 points, finishing just 5 points out of the European spots, with Wolves breaking into the top 6 now, which is always nice to see as a Wolves fan, I suppose. And Rangers up in 13th as well. That's really good. Burnley, Fulham and Stoke are the teams coming down. We'll start off with Celtic first. Of course, 9th in the Prem. Paulo Fonseca now the manager. Quite highly rated outside of England in real life. He's had a very, very solid start to life as Celtic manager. Since December, winning 10, losing just 5 games. Players they've brought in, 113 million spent, but 122 million brought in, with Christopher Ayer, Kieran Tierney, Fabio Barini they made a really good money on. Tosun have all left the club. But players they brought in, Dilrosun from Arsenal for 36 million. He looks a really... I've not actually heard of him. He looks a really good player. Florian Andone came in from Brighton. Victor Wanyama coming back to the club on a free. That's really good to see as well. That's quite cool. Interesting. And Sergio Aguero on loan as well. You know, just a standard signing. With Reece Nelson coming in on loan as well. Competition-wise, finishing 9th, obviously, in the league. 3rd round, they were knocked out of the FA Cup. And 2nd round of the Carabao Cup by QPR. It's a shame that we haven't really seen them, I suppose, win any cups. But look, Celtic started off really, really poorly. And obviously their manager, this new manager, has given them a really, really solid season. Carlos Queiroz then obviously sacked in November when they were playing quite poorly. Interesting, but yeah, good turnaround in the form. Rangers at the moment, manager is Martin Sevilla still. Obviously done a little bit of a better job. Players are brought in, 48.5 million spent. Not as much as obviously their neighbours at Celtic. Adam Traore coming in from Wolves. Danny Welbeck, Pedro Obiang, Peter Golaski, the goalkeeper. Quite a big amount of money to spend on him. Nikola Katic left the club. Glenn Kamara. Some big outs there. Yeah, he's doing all right, actually. He turned it around slightly. I thought that he may not have done so well. Let's check out how the two teams got on playing up against each other. They played each other there with Celtic won 2-0. Oxlade-Chamberlain and Dilrosun scoring, and Rangers won the reverse fixture, so they both got a little bit of bragging rights, with Dragos and Obiang scoring for Rangers and Rogic scoring for Celtic in that first fixture. Right then, we're going to move on to the final season of the experiment, see if these two could solidify themselves as two Premier League teams. Let's go forward. Still got some of their big players with Morelos. Celtic have lost the likes of Tierney and so on, but still got the likes of Edouard, so let's see how they'll get on. So then the final season, we're going to jump into the Premier League, and we'll see Celtic and Rangers exactly the same amount of points, and what a way to end this video. Exactly the same amount of points, Celtic with slightly better goal difference, Rangers with slightly more wins, so interesting end to the video, I suppose, and they've sort of levelled themselves out eventually. Celtic have now got Alexander Kackovic in charge. Fonseca was sacked in February. He's not got a job since. And Kackovic is coming, and again, had an okay start to proceedings with Celtic. 75 million spent this season. Diogo Dalot coming in from United. Francis Coquelin coming in from United. Jesus Corona coming in from Porto. Neto, the goalkeeper, coming in from Valencia. Klein as well. Bernard on loan from Everton. Players that left. Max Aarons, 54 million to Manchester United. They spent just 14 million from Norwich. Fantastic piece of business there from Celtic. Simone Scuffet, the goalkeeper, leaving to go to Bournemouth. Dominic Iorfa has gone to Sassuolo. Interesting. So good business from Celtic. This season finishing obviously in 12th. Media predicted 10th. But again, they had some little spells where they were down in the bottom 2 or 3. And obviously they've turned it around since then. Jack Lancaster being the top goal scorer for them this season. Must have been a player that they brought in for 11.5 million. Decent return this season. 5th round, they were knocked out of the FA Cup by Forest. 3rd round of the Carabao Cup by Oldham, which I'm sure they won't be too impressed about. Let's go to Rangers, though. Finishing 13th this season. Martin Savella still in charge. Doing quite well in the end then. Transfer history. Bringing in £45.5 million worth of players. Max Meyer coming in. Kyle Walker coming in as well from Bournemouth. Still a decent player. Thomas Guidara from LA Galaxy. Mason Mount from Chelsea. Kurzawa coming in from Ingolstadt. Chris Smalling on free. Guendouzi in on loan. Guendouzi's 24 now. Should be really hitting a good amount of football, but still struggling to get football at Arsenal, interestingly. Morelos finally left as well. Got 27 million for him. Quite a strange time for him to leave. I'd assume they would have got more money for him. He didn't actually start a game at Leverkusen. Nick Powell as well leaving the club. Let's go over to their competitions. Still none of the Scottish teams have won a domestic cup. But I suppose Rangers, bar their start to the season here, where I'd assume, I'm surprised they didn't sack Savella after sort of 9 or 10 games being in the bottom 3 the whole season. They sort of sorted it out and probably had a more consistent season after that than Celtic. But knocked out in the 5th round of the FA Cup by Wolves and 2nd round of the Carabao Cup by Leeds. Dennis Dragos finishing top goal scorer for them with 15 goals. Let's quickly check the games against each other. Have I skipped past one here? They didn't play each other till... What on earth is this? Oh, this is the year of the World Cup, isn't it? So things are all over the place. They didn't actually play Celtic, look. Yeah, they played them both after January. So they lost out to Celtic 2-1 in the first game and 1-1 draw in the second game towards the end of the season. That is crazy. I've not actually experienced this World Cup thing yet. But, it's taken a few years, but Rangers and Celtic have sort of solidified themselves now as both Premier League teams. This amount of money coming in, they'll be spending some big money, I'd assume. They were breaking their transfer records easily, haven't they? Let's have a quick look. Where are the transfer records? Fee paid, that's theirs, and fee received. Alfredo Morelos, they're easy to have broken those. So it'll be interesting to see how things would have moved on if we went even further. But if you did enjoy it, make sure you hit the like button down below. As I said, I've left a link to the database if you wish to download it off FM Scout in the description down below. And let me know your thoughts on what else that you'd like to see. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm sure I'll see you all very, very soon.